Okay, we are preparing for our Unit 5 test. So we're going to review each of the objectives. Some of these were from before Christmas, so we want to make sure we remember how to do them. So we're going to start with CO27. I can identify and plot ordered pairs on the coordinate plane. So everyone should have their binder open to CO27. The coordinate plane is the system of the intersecting horizontal number line called the x-axis with the vertical number line called the y-axis. So if we look at our graph, the x is horizontal, it goes across. The y is the vertical, it goes up and down. The origin is right in the middle. That's where it is 0, 0. Quadrant 1 is here. Quadrant 2, so quadrant 1, it's positives on the x-axis and positives on that y-axis. So going to the right is positive, just like our number line. Going up is positive, like a thermometer. Positives going up, negative numbers go down on the thermometer. So think about that. Our quadrant 2, we have negative for the x's, positives for our y. Quadrant 3, we have negative for the x's, negative for our y's. And quadrant 4, we have positive x, negative y's. So those 4 quadrants are what make up our coordinate plane. The ordered pairs always start with our x and then the y. So you always, that first number, you're going to find it going across on that horizontal x-axis. Then our second number is the y, and you find it going up and down on the y-axis. A scatter plot is the graph of a set of data pairs, which is a collection of points in the coordinate plane. So if you have different coordinates, when you graph those, we have 3, 2, I go over to my x, and then up to the y, then I do -2 to the x, -3 is the y, -1 is the x, 0 is the y, -4 is the x, +3 is the y. That's our scatter plot. That's just graphing those coordinate pairs. Okay, remember we did a lot of graphing before Christmas, just working with how to find those coordinate pairs in the different quadrants. Remembering that the x comes first, so you find that on that horizontal line. Y goes up and down second. How are we feeling about graphing? Feeling good? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs shaky? All right. Let's look at our next objective. The next objective is CO28. I can find the slope of a line using a coordinate plane. So the slope is, remember this is where we come, this is important. We need to remember that slope is the rise over the run. Rise over run tells us our slope, how much that line is going to be going up and down. So when we find, the first thing we're going to do is we graph. So it says start at the origin, move 3 units up and 2 units to the right. So I'm going to draw my line here. So if I move 3 units, it says 3 units up and 2 units to the right. and plot that as A. Then my next one, starting at A, it says go 6 units up and 4 units to the right. That's going to be my B. So let's draw a line through it. Then it says find the ratio of rise to run. So I need to start at A. I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I go over 1, 2, 3, 4. So my rise is 6. My run, how far over I go is 4. Remember, we always go to the right. You either go up or you go down, and then you always go to the right. So if you're going up, it's going to be positive. If we're going down, if we're starting here and we're going down for our rise, it's going to be negative. So a positive slope means when you start here and you go up to your next one, then it's positive. Negative means you go down and over. So remember that with your slopes. Rise over run. Rise is up or down. Run is how far over to the right. If you're going up for the rise, it's a positive slope. If you're going down for the rise, it's a negative slope. And if it's a horizontal line, our slope is 0. So a horizontal line means there is no slope. It's a 0. Yes. Oh, you can be working on your help sheet as we're going through this. Rise over run, important to have on your help sheet. Okay, that is an important formula. You can explain what is the rise, up or down. How many up or down you have to go is the rise. The run is how many over to the right you have to go. Remember, we're always making either that shape or that shape. We don't ever start over on the right and go to the left. Always start on the left and go to the right, just like we're reading. That's how we know if it's a positive or a negative. Any questions on the slope? Let's practice doing one. So, we're going to use this. I'm going to use this. And let's see how we do. So if I have my first point, I'm putting at 2, 3. And my next point, I'm going to put at 8, 5. And I want to know what that slope is. So I'm at the 2. What's my first? I'm at 2, 3. What's my first step I have to do to find my slope? What's the first thing I do? Remembering it's rise over run. 3L. I'm going to go up. So I'm going to start at the 2, 3. And I'm going to see how many up I have to go. So that's 1, 2. So I'm going to put a 2 for my rise. Then what do I do, Peyton?
Then you go across.
Then I'm going to count how many across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I went over 6. So I'm going to put that for my run. Remember, we can simplify our numbers. So 2, 6 is the same as what, Tristan? 1/3, because I can divide a 2 out of both my top and my bottom. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So my slope is 1/3. Is it a positive or a negative slope? Well, it's positive because I went up. So my slope equals 1/3. Okay, so it's not that complicated once we remember how to do it. It's a little scary when we get these formulas, rise over run, what is that? All you're doing is counting how many up or down, and then how many over to the right. So that rise is on top, up or down, and you can even write that. So when you say rise, I would put up, up or down. And then for the run, it's to the right. So how many up or down? How many to the right? So remind yourself, don't just write rise over run if you don't know what it means. Remind yourself what it means. What does the rise mean? What does the run mean? I would put up equals positive. Down equals negative. Because if you're going down for your slope, you need to remember it's going to be a negative number. Any questions on the slope? How do we feel about finding the slope? Our thumbs up, thumbs shaky, thumbs down. How are we feeling? Okay, I'm seeing lots of thumbs up. The bottom of this page is using the slope to draw a line. If they tell us a slope, can you wait this? If they tell us a slope, we need to be able to draw a line for it. So this says draw a line that has a slope of -3. So if our slope is -3, rise over run, it's supposed to be a fraction. How do I make -3 into a fraction? Well,
-3 on the one.
yeah, I'm going to put it over 1. Okay. Now I know what my rise is, and I know what my run is. And it says the line has to pass through 2, 5. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to graph. Oh, let me draw that line a little bit better. I'm going to graph 1, 2, and then go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My pen isn't very calibrated right now, so it's not perfect, but we're going to get the idea. So that's my starting point. I need to do rise over run. -3. Which direction am I going to go? Am I going to count up or down? Down, because it's a negative. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3. I'm really not calibrated here. So if I go down 3, how many to the right am I going to go? 1. And then I draw my line going through my 2. So if you know the slope and you know one coordinate ordered pair, you can draw a line. You graph that ordered pair, you do your rise over run to get another point, and then you connect them to draw your line. All right, let's look at our next objective. I can identify and create patterns. So now this is what we started doing after Christmas break. So this was last week. Okay, numbered patterns. we were pretty much rocking those number patterns. Okay, we remember how to do that. Take that off. So first thing you have to do is figure out what the pattern is, and then continue that pattern on. So 2, 7, 12, 17, what was our pattern?
You go up.
If I'm going up, is that going to be adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing?
Addition.
If I'm going up. Tristan?
Addition.
Addition. How much am I going up by, Maya?
5.
5. So that's my rule. I'm going to add 5. So my pattern is adding 5 every time. So if I'm at 17, I know I add 5 to it and I get 22. Add 5 to 22 and I get 27. Add 5 to 27 and I get 32. So you're finding your rule. That's going to help us when we get to the functions. Find your rule and you can continue your pattern. I'm going from 2 to 6 to 18 to 54. What am I doing? Adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? Well, I'm multiplying by what? By 3. I'm multiplying by 3 every time. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 times 3 is 54. Just keep multiplying by 3. There are visual patterns. We practice working on those visual patterns also. What's going to happen next? How is it growing? Is it rotating? Okay, what happens in our visual patterns? Any questions on the patterns?
No.
We kind of rocked that objective. All right, next objective, CO30. I can create a function table. This is where we're going to use those patterns and put them into a table. It's doing the same thing, finding the rule, continuing your pattern. So we know our function table, our input is what we're starting with, and the output is what we get from it. And I'm going to add that input is the x and the output is the y, as we worked with that with yesterday's objective. So I want us to remember that. So you're going to put in the input number, put in the x into your function, and you get out of it your output, your y. This is also called the domain. The x is the domain, the y is the range. So domain is x, it's input, range is the y, it's the output. So you're going to want to find the rule. That's going to be your function. Then you're going to substitute your x in for the x, and you're going to get your y. So making an input-output table for the function y minus 1.3. Let's do a different one for us to practice. So we're going to do a different one up here. Let's do y equals x minus 2. Okay, I'm keeping it simple. And I'm going to use the domain of 0, 1, 2, 3. If I use 0, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to substitute that x in for the x to find out what my y is going to be. So I'm going to say y equals 0 minus 2. Because I put my 0 in for the x. What is y? What is 0 minus 2? Bria? Negative 2. Because if we're at 0 and we take away 2, we go to the left on that number line, we get to negative 2. So let's look at 1. We're going to substitute that that x 1 in for x. So y equals 1 minus 2. What is 1 minus 2? Peyton?
-1.
-1. So my y is -1. What is my y going to be if the x is 2, Kira?
0.
Yeah, because I would say y equals 2 minus 2, so y is 0. What's my last one? Well, what would it be if x is 3? 1. Because I would say y equals 3 minus 2. So to fill in your function table, you just take your x, substitute it into the x for the function, and you get your y. You'll notice that we're following our number pattern with those y's. -2, -1, 0, 1. What do you think our next y would be if we're following the pattern? 2, because we're adding 1 every time. -2 plus 1 is -1. -1 plus 1 is 0. 1 plus 1 going to be a 2. Okay, it's that same number pattern that we've been working with. You look a little confused. Are you okay?
No, I'm good.
Okay, how are we feeling about function tables? Thumbs up, thumbs shaky, thumbs down? Okay, a lot of us are feeling confident. A couple of us are, So just remember, they're going to give you the function. They're going to give you the input. You figure out what the output is. So just take your x and fill it in for x. Let's see what's at the bottom of this page. This one, they give you the x and the y. You need to figure out what the rule is. What is the function? So now we have to look at that number pattern. We have a half, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. What are we doing every time? What's my number pattern? What's the pattern? If I'm going from a half to 1.5 to 2.5 to 3.5 to 4.5, what am I doing every time, Zoe?
You're adding 1.
I'm adding 1. So my rule is to add 1. So I see it's a -2 to a half, -1 to 1.5. How many am I adding? Look at that 0 to 2.5. How am I going to write a function for that? If I go from 0 to 2.5, I know I'm going to be adding. I always start my functions with y equals, and I know I'm going to be adding. How much am I adding to get it to be that +1? If I go from a 0 to a 2.5, what am I adding, Zoe? 2.5. My function is going to be y equals x plus 2.5. I know that I'm adding them up because my y's were increasing by an addition rule. So I have to look at that 0 to 2.5. I know I'm adding 2.5 each time. Okay, so sometimes you'll be filling in the y's for your function table. Sometimes you have to find what your rule is and figure out what the function is of the table that they give you. All right. That brings us to yesterday, CO31. So we know those function tables. Now we just turn to that table on its side. So instead of x on top, y on bottom, we have x on the left, y on the right. We fill in our domain, all those x's. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. I know we did something different when we did it yesterday. I'm giving us a domain of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. what is my y going to be if my function is y equals 2x plus 1? What is my y going to be if the x is 0? Brielle? 1. Because if I put a 0 in for my x, 2 times 0 is 0 plus 1. I'm going to get a 1 for my y. I can write an ordered pair out of that with my x and my y, 0, 1. I can graph that. Now if I put a 1 in, 2 times 1 plus 1, what is my y going to be, Lily? 3. Because 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Now I'm going to put a 2 in. What is my y going to be, Ryan?
Your y would be
2 times 2 plus 1.
I didn't know. 2 times 2 is 4, and then plus 1 is 5.
Now what if I put a 3 in for my x? Will? Keith?
7.
7. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And if I put a 4 in, what do I get, Tristan? 2 times 4 plus 1.
9.
9. So again, you can write your ordered pairs, x, then y. What's going to happen when I graph these ordered pairs? What's it going to look like? What have we been working with? What am I going to graph? What kind of shape? A line. It's going to be a line because it's a function. Functions are lines. So if I were to graph this, 0, 1, 1, 2. So 1 would be 3, 2 is 5, 3 is 7, 4 is 9. And we can see it is a straight line. So if it is a straight line, is it linear or non-linear? Well, linear, because it's a line, so it's linear. Non-linear, remember, has that goofy shape to it. It would be non-linear. If it's goofy like that, there are 2 y's for 1 x, then it is not a function. So if it's that goofy shape, looks like a C or a backward C, not a function. If it is a U or an upside down U, it's a function. If it's a line, it's a function. Linear line, linear means it is a straight line. Non-linear means it's not a line. How are we feeling about graphing our functions? Okay. A lot of us are up, some of us are not quite there. Just remember that if we're comfortable with making our function table, the graphing of the function is just doing the same thing, filling out that function table, and then we're just taking our x and our y to make the ordered pairs. We know how to graph. We were confident with that before Christmas, putting those ordered pairs on the graph paper. So it's just building one step at a time. So don't get overwhelmed by it. If we just take it one step at a time, we've got this. And if you want to stay after school tomorrow, I will be after school tomorrow. So we're going to do the practice test tomorrow. And I truly want you, if you're right now, you're one of my friends that are like, I'm not so sure. I want you to plan with mom and dad that you're gonna stay after school tomorrow. And after the practice test, if you go, ooh, I thought I understood it, but I don't, check with mom and dad if you can stay after school. And we will review the practice test so we are confident going into our real test on Thursday. So I truly, truly, truly want people to stay after school tomorrow to prepare for the test on Thursday. Okay? So for my friends at home, if you are going to be in school tomorrow, plan on staying after school to get some extra help to make sure you understand it all since you've been home. If you are not going to be in school tomorrow and you're going to be doing the test at home, email me if you have any questions. I can always try to set up a Google Meet so we can go through any questions that you might have. So let me know if you have questions. So hopefully we are prepared for this test. We have a little bit of time left before the end of class. So my friends in class are going to make sure they have their help sheet ready and work on Khan Academy. Khan Academy is due Thursday night. A lot of us have not been working on it. Work on Khan Academy. So those of us at home, remember, Khan Academy is due Thursday night. I hope you are all doing well, and we will see you later.